Go drop it in the car. You
Okay.
grab your phone.
Chickamauga Battlefield Visitor Center. Yes, we're off at another battlefield. And once again, we're going to do the driving tour. So, and this time it's got a phone app. So, that'd probably be pretty cool. So,
You think we've already got what we
yeah.
need for the...
Yeah, I think we'll be,
Because we can just pull up that app, right?
I can pull up the app and the map. Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, I'm getting my coat off. So, we are...
I just put your shirt in the bag with
That's good. Okay, we are off and at 'em.
about 5,300 acres, largest battlefield of the Civil War.
Yeah.
All 3 days.
Yeah. That
And
is
I
kind
think-
of what we know, ain't it?
Huh?
It is kind of what we know, ain't it? So. See who this is? Gotta find out who people are.
This is Florida.
Florida, look at that. Ooh. I think I'm gonna put my coat on when I get back in the car. This monument has been erected in memory of the soldiers of the state of Florida who took part in a battle fought here September 1920th, 1863, whether they fell in battle or lived to render further service to the state and country. Florida did a nice job. So we're at tour stop 1. And you ain't gonna have to listen to us do it. Mama's got a nap in there now. That'd do it. A little windy. It's a little chilly this morning. I didn't throw my coat on.
Okay, we ready?
But yes, go ahead and hit 1.
Morning, September 20th, 1863. In this field, just south of the McDonald farm, all is quiet. The men of John Beatty's brigade screen the left flank of the Union Army, their positions marked by a series of stone monuments around the present-day visitor center to the field across the street. The main Union line stretched from present-day Battle Line Road and Tour Stop 2, just east of here, all the way south of the present-day park boundaries. All along this question mark-shaped line, Union soldiers frantically build breastworks to prepare for the attack that they know will come at any moment. For 2 days now, the Union Army of the Cumberland, commanded by William Rosecrans, and the Confederate Army of Tennessee, commanded by Braxton Bragg, has slugged it out through the woods and fields along the banks of the Chickamauga Creek. Earlier that summer, the Union Army moved south from its positions around Murfreesboro, Tennessee, with its sights set on capturing Chattanooga. Chattanooga was the gateway to the Confederacy, situated at an intersection of river and rail, and it guarded one of the few gaps in the Cumberland Plateau. If the Union Army captured Chattanooga, then the road to Atlanta in the Confederate heartland would be wide open. After maneuvering Braxton Bragg first out of Middle Tennessee and then out of Chattanooga, the divided Union Army crossed Lookout Mountain to the south. After a series of engagements around McLemore's Cove, 10 miles south of this position, both armies began to move towards Chattanooga. On September 18th, Bragg ordered a portion of his army to cross Chickamauga Creek ahead of Rosecrans and block the army's route back to Chattanooga. As these Confederates reached the creek crossing at Alexander's Bridge in the southeastern corner of the battlefield and Reed's Bridge to the east of the Visitor Center, they encountered unexpected resistance. Dismounted Union soldiers guarded the crossings, and stubborn resistance by these Union troopers hampered Confederate attempts to cross the bridges throughout the day. Finally, that evening, overwhelming Confederate numbers pushed their way across the creek. The next day, September 19th, both armies funneled more and more troops into the battlefield. Beginning at Jay's Mill, east of here, armies collided haphazardly into each other in a bloody chaos that one Union officer later described as bushwhacking on a grand scale. That night, Braxton Bragg reorganized his army and planned for a dawn attack, to be launched in this sector by General John C. Breckinridge. Delays and mismanagement plagued the Confederate command, and the attack did not begin until mid-morning on September 20th. Suddenly, Confederates under the command of General Daniel Adams poured around the left flank of the Union line by the present-day Visitor Center, and Marcellus Stovall's Floridians crashed through the trees into the field across from you, their position marked by the Florida State Monument. Across these fields, Stovall's and Adams' men charged, routing Beatty's brigade. Assaults of the famed Washington artillery from New Orleans, commanded by Captain Cuthbert Slocum. Slocum's battery was one of the most famous units in the Confederate Army, having been in existence as a pre-war militia since the 1830s. As the Confederates charged forward, Slocum placed his guns here in this position and began firing south, into the flank and rear of the Union Army. For the Confederates in this field, it must have seemed like a victory was inevitable, but it was not without cost. Major Rice Graves, General Breckinridge's chief of artillery, was struck in the stomach just behind Slocum's battery. The artillerists pulled Graves north into the ditch between here and the Visitor Center. Knowing his wound was mortal, Graves said to the men, "Boys, I know you think that I prefer my old battery to yours. It is not so. There is none I admire and love more than yours. I wish a detail of your boys to carry me off and to remain with me until I die." Continue on to Tour Stop 2 by turning right out onto the Lafayette Road and then turning left onto Alexander Bridge Road. Battle Line Road and Tour Stop 2 will be ahead.
Okay guys, this one is Monumenta, Kentucky.
Nice monument.
Okay, erected by the state of Kentucky in memory of her sons who fought and fell on this field. Union organization from Kentucky engaged. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 15th, 17th, 18th, and 23rd Infantry Regiment, and the 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 6th Cavalry Regiments. Oh, we're missing our cannons, people. Confederate organization from Kentucky engaged. The 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 9th Infantry Regiments, 2nd and 3rd Cavalry Regiments, Cobb and Graves Battery. So there was both sides. And that was a monument for Kentucky. The monuments are really just nice monuments.
This is the
Correct.
best we've seen since
Gettysburg, probably, yeah. And there it is. There's Kentucky.
Should we go ahead and play?
Might as well.
Look west through the woods into Kelly Field, part of the Kelly Farmstead. Intense fighting on the previous day pushed the Federal battle line to this position. The line ran from the northern portion of Kelly Field, through the woods to the north, and down the road to the south. From the east, the Confederates assaulted this Union position. In 1863, this area of the battlefield was wooded, but more open than what we see today. Local farmers, including the Kelly family, allowed their livestock to freely forage, which cleaned out much of the forest understory. Additionally, a large cedar glade stretched to the east, giving Union artillerists a deadly field of fire. The Federals built rudimentary breastworks along this line using fence rails, logs, brush, rocks, and boxes. These breastworks were around knee to waist high and extended a mile southwest from here to the Poe farmstead. The Confederates planned to turn the Federal left at this point and drive them southwest into the mountains, keeping them away from Chattanooga. Given the task in this sector was General Benjamin Hardin Helms' brigade of General John C. Breckinridge's division. Defending the Federal line at this point was General John H. King's brigade of the United States Army Regulars. Due to miscommunication of orders, the Confederate attack, scheduled to begin at dawn, was delayed for nearly 4 hours. The delay cost the Confederates the element of surprise and also allowed the Federals to strengthen their breastworks. Part of this attack included that which you learned about at Tour Stop 1. The attack by Helms' brigade began around 9:30 a.m., and the Federal line suddenly exploded with musketry. Cannon fire ripped through the open cedar glades as Helms' men tried to push across. Helms' men were driven back by this determined resistance, which ultimately forced the Confederates to attack again, and then, incredibly, a third time, but never succeeding in breaking the Federal line. During one of the attacks, General Helm was mortally wounded. Helm's death was felt all the way to Washington, D.C., where his brother-in-law, President Abraham Lincoln, greatly mourned him. Even though the two were on opposing sides, they remained close, and the president took Helm's death extremely hard. Looking through the woods into North Kelly Field, attacks by Breckinridge's 2 other brigades were initially successful. Union brigades later entered the field and pushed Breckinridge's Confederates back with heavy losses. Firing then quieted along this line, only to resume around 12:30 p.m., when another unsuccessful attempt was made to break the Union line. At late evening, the Confederates broke through the Federal barricade near the Alabama Monument down Battle Line Road. Extending along Battle Line Road are some of the oldest monuments in the park. Placed here around 1893, they silently reflect the valor and courage which they symbolize. Many of the monuments feature an acorn, which was adopted by the Union 14th Corps as their symbol because they stood sturdy as an oak tree in the fiercest storm along this line. Continue on to Tour Stop 3, where a mix-up in orders will lead.
This is Peyton Coquette, 46 Georgia, commanding Guest Brigade, Walker Division, mortally wounded here about noon, September 20th, 1863. And we thought I see it down there in the woods. Head on down to...
So we're going to Helm, which was Lincoln's brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, yeah. At least it ain't wet like it was in Shiloh. So we'll get back with you.
It was about 10 a.m. on the same day that Colquitt died.
Benjamin H. Helms, Brigadier General, Confederate State Army, Commanding Brigade, Breckinridge Division, mortally wounded here about 10 a.m., September 20th, 1863. And that would be Abraham Lincoln's
brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. It's awful quiet out here.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Okay, guys.
Let's go back through the swamp.
Back through the swamp and the car. If you do, you can bring horses here. I mean, they have
They
trails.
have walking tours. They have car caravans.
Yeah.
We saw horses. We've seen bicycles.
Bicycles.
And it's free.
And again, I like free. You know, our tax dollars at work. It's the Union line. The Confederates was across the road over there. It goes down a long ways. There we go. The President mourns. Mortally wounded not far from here. Brigadier General Benjamin Helms, the brother-in-law of President Abraham Lincoln.
Private August Brotnover, a Union infantryman, wrote this account of the action here on September 20th. Brotnover served in the 10th Wisconsin Infantry.
As soon as it was light, we were marched to the front, in line with the rest of our brigade. By this time, we were in good fighting condition. Everybody was anxious to go ahead and do something. We were about out of provisions, too. Even water was scarce with us. All the forenoon, we were moved around in the woods without seeing the enemy. The bullets came by our heads and several men were hit. Then we were ordered to lay up logs for breastworks and get behind it quick. The rebels frequently advanced on our left while we were rolling logs together. Later, the attack became more general along our line. We had to work on our breastworks at intervals when we were not being attacked. Gradually, we put in logs crosswise to protect ourselves so that we had no trouble to drive them back. We began to let them get quite near to us before firing, and in that way, get great execution. We could see the line come up through the underbrush in good order, then waver, and a number would fall, and the rest would turn and be out of sight in a minute.
They're just plenty of beautiful monuments here, and they're everywhere. And this is tour stop number 2. There was 30,000 casualties here. In 3 days of fighting. 10th Wisconsin Infantry. It's a lot of soldiers. And here is the acorn. To the 2nd Ohio Infantry. So, and their monuments just keep going around here, guys. So if you come, this is another one you could probably spend days on to really just give it justice, you know. Okay, this is a Texas monument. Texas remembered the valor and devotion of her sons who served at Chickamauga, September 19th, 20th, 1863. Here in the Great Confederate Breakthrough, Texans vied for each other to prove themselves worthy of the fame won by their brothers on other fields. Texas troops at Chickamauga were the 6th and 10th Texas Infantry, 15th Texas Cavalry, dismounted Colonel Rogers O'Meal and Lieutenant Colonel T. Scott Anderson, 17th, 18th, 24th, and 25th Texas Cavalry dismounted Colonel F.C. Wilkins, Lieutenant Colonel John T. Coate, and Major William A. Taylor Douglas, Texas Artillery Captain James P. Douglas, General James Dessler Brigade, Cleburne's Division, the 9th Texas Infantry, Colonel William H. Young, 10th Texas, I don't know what GAV is, or it could be CAV, I bet, Cavalry, Lieutenant Colonel C.R. Earp, 14th Texas Cavalry, Colonel J.L. Kemp, 32nd Texas Cavalry, Colonel Julius A. Andrews, all units serving as infantry. General Matthew D. Eckerd, Brigade, Walker Division. And the other side. Oh, there's more. And there they all are, guys. And it says a memorial to Texan who served the Confederacy, erected by the state of Texas in 1964. The Alabama marker is somewhere around, but I don't see it, but we'll get back. On this side, of course, is a Union line. Guys, this thing's huge. This thing makes Gettysburg, quality of the monuments and stuff that Shiloh really didn't have. This is very interesting. Okay, this is Alabama Monument. In tender memory of Alabama soldiers who fought and fell on this Chickamauga battlefield, this shaft shall point to those exciting scenes and visions long since flown from memory, is the only friend that grief can call its own. So, it's pretty nice. Yeah.
What do you see on this side?
Montgomery, capital, Alabama. Really, I want to just show this, people. You know, people who do this kind of stuff, you're really idiots, you know that? I just want to tell you that. Just I share it with you, because apparently people don't tell you that, and I know. You can complain, I'd tell you to your face, you're an idiot. You know, just thought I'd be nice about it. You're an idiot. Texas. Look at this monument, please. Really?
Texas is not always bigger and better.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Very disappointing.
I've seen private headstones look better than what you put up. I mean, really, that was an embarrassment.
Not that we don't love the state of Texas. We do.
I like Texas, but that was really
Disappointing.
a very disappointing one.
Underwhelming.
You did not exceed my expectations.
That is correct.
Now, I know that I didn't do this run down through here, but a lot of this is Ohio. And Ohio had some nice monument. Now they're just breaking it, a lot of it, down to the 36th Ohio Infantry that was holding this line down here. And I'll try to go back and get some of the nice stuff, but the acorn, become really
Symbolic of the Union.
Yeah, of the Union. And there are a lot of Union statues down here, but the Ohio Brigades really was working this front on this
In
line.
Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
But Ohio was really heavily in here. So I'll try to get some of the Union runs down through here too, guys. Here's an Ohio, the 105th Ohio Infantry, Colonel Edward A. King's Brigade, Reynolds Division, 14th Army Corps. Look at that. That is just a beautiful monument. Yeah. And reformed in this position, which it also occupied till about one. Killed 3, wounded 41, captured or missing 26, total of 7. 70. 70. Well, hold on.
Casualties, right. Killed, wounded, and captured.
This is really,
They did a nice job.
they did a beautiful job on that, guys. Ohio, you did a nice job. Texas, I hope you saw that. Yeah, and that mohunking thing down there at Georgia, Texas, yours ought to be 5 times that big. I mean, really. Not that I'm complaining at you, but you really failed my expectation test. We're at 3.
Yep.
To the east is the Georgia Monument across the Lafayette Road, the tallest monument on the Chickamauga battlefield. On September 19, 1863, this field was the scene of heavy fighting, where Georgians under Confederate General William C. Bate had taken heavy losses attacking Union troops across open ground. Running left and right along the line of monuments is the center of the Union battle line, as it existed on the final day of battle, September 20th. To the north, where the large 105th Ohio Monument is located, were troops commanded by General John Brannan, and beyond his men was the line of General Joseph Reynolds, roughly near the area crossing the Lafayette Road. The large field was farmed by the Poe family, whose home site is marked by a small sign. Breckinridge's attack on the Union left, near the previous tour stop on the morning of September 20th, sent shockwaves down the Federal battle line. Couriers were dispatched to commanders along the Federal line, requesting more troops be sent to help push the Confederates from their advanced position threatening the Union rear. One of these couriers arrived at Brannan's headquarters around 10:30 a.m. Brannan told him that he had sent all the assistance he could, and that he could not send any more unless they came out of the main line. Already under fire from Confederates in his front, Brannan could offer no more help. Still needing reinforcements, the courier then went to General Reynolds, whose troops were next in line. Reynolds agreed that the troops needed to be taken from the main line, but wanted Rosecrans's approval before moving them. Rosecrans's headquarters, 600 yards behind you, was full of activity. At the time the courier arrived to voice Brannan and Reynolds' concerns, the commanding general had been awake for almost 2 days. Without seeing the situation himself, Rosecrans made a fatal mistake. He believed Brannan had already moved his soldiers out of position, creating a gap in the middle of the line. However, there was no gap. At 10:45 a.m., Rosecrans issued a one-sentence order to General Thomas J. Wood, whose Union troops were a few hundred yards to the south. The general commanding directs that you close up on Reynolds as fast as possible and support him. Because Wood saw that Brannan's men were still in position next to Reynolds, he asked his superior, General Alexander McDowell McCook, to explain the confusing order. The two decided the order must be followed, and Wood started moving his men to the north. Meaning to plug the imaginary gap in his line, Rosecrans had opened up a real gap. Unknown to the Union commanders, the real threat was not to the north where Wood was headed. Instead, the real threat was a powerful force of Confederates waiting in the woods beyond where the Georgia Monument now stands. Continue on to tour stop 4 at the Brotherton Cabin, where the tide...
Georgia. This is the tallest monument in the park, according to my tour guide. This is Georgia's. Georgia, it's a nice monument. Now I want to get back to the tea states. Texas, I want to tell you I'm sorry. Because you at least put a monument up. Now, Tennessee, on the other hand,
We haven't found one.
we ain't found one. And they ain't one in the guide nowhere. So, Tennessee.
Hey, Tennessee's might be at Lookout Mountain. It might be in Chattanooga. It might.
Might not, too. I mean, this is a nice monument. Very, very pretty. At the very top, since I've got the GoPro and it won't zoom, it has CSA, engraved all around the top. To the lasting memory of all our sons who fought on this field, those who fought and lived, and those who fought and died, those who gave much and those who gave all, Georgia erects this
In
monument.
1899.
Yep. This is really, guys, a gorgeous monument. Yeah. Georgia, y'all be proud of that. That's a beautiful monument. Longstreet Corps was here, Walker's Corps, Wheeler's, Benning's Brigade, and Stovall's Brigade. Try to stand back, like I said, to get it all. But very nice. Okay, we're at Brotherton's Cabin, and going to walk up the hill. I'm getting my exercise today. You know, that dang Texas monument looks pretty good. Because we got to looking. Tennessee's got a little field marker in here. You remember them old headstones that they used to put down for when they didn't know who you was, just a rock flipped up? That's what Tennessee's got in here. A little embarrassing. You know,
Army of Tennessee, look here.
Oh, here we go. Here you go. Left wing, the Army of Tennessee. Didn't Longstreet become a Union man pretty quick? You know? But there you go. That's about it for Tennessee. And you know, Longstreet was over at the Georgia. He was in and under that. But you would have thought Tennessee would have put up something.
Working to the Brothertons.
Brotherton house.
Do you want to go and start playing this?
Yeah.
Like most families on the Chickamauga battlefield, the Brothertons lived the lives of small farmers in a log cabin similar to the one you see here today. In the field to the west at the wood line, General Wood's Union Division was ordered at 10:45 a.m. on September 20th, 1863, to move north to support General George H. Thomas. In the forest across the Lafayette Road, 11,000 Confederate soldiers under General James Longstreet were arranged in deep formation, awaiting orders to attack. After Confederate General John C. Breckinridge's failure to turn the left flank, Bragg sent out orders for all of his other commanders to immediately attack. Longstreet, in position across the Lafayette Road, moved forward around 11 a.m. Instead of sending his command into the attack piecemeal, as in the previous attack, he summoned his trusted subordinate, General John Bell Hood, and ordered him to attack in force. General Bushrod Johnson's division led Longstreet's command forward, crossing the Lafayette Road and rushing through the fields surrounding the Brotherton Cabin, and by sheer luck into the gap created by Wood only moments before. The Confederates struck the rear of Wood's column, then marched northward and burst into the dire field beyond the line of trees behind you. General Johnson vividly recalled, "Our lines now emerged from the forest into the open ground on the border of long open fields, over which the enemy were retreating. The scene now presented was unspeakably grand. The resolute and impetuous charge, the rush of our heavy columns sweeping out from the shadow and gloom of the forest into open fields flooded with sunlight, the glittering of arms, an onward dash of artillery and mounted men, the retreat of the foe, the shouts of the hosts of our army, the dust, the smoke, the noise of firearms, of wishing balls and grape shot and of burst shell, made up a battle scene of unsurpassed grandeur. Here, General Hood gave the last order I received from him on the field. Go ahead and keep ahead of everything. The entire right wing of the Union Army began to collapse and retreat from the battlefield. Union Army Commander William Rosecrans was caught up in the retreat, leaving General George Thomas as the senior Union officer on the field. A grave disaster was in the making for the Army of the Cumberland. Continue on to tour stop 5 to see the cost of Chickamauga.
Okay, here's Missouri's, I think. To Bledsoe, Missouri Battery, Confederate States of America. That would be such a nice monument. But this is just beautiful. I'm going to walk up and see who it is up here at the top. Which one, so I'm going to cut so you don't have to watch me walk the field here, guys. Okay, we're at stop number 5. And Donna's coming with her phone. She said some of the worst fighting took place around this area.
Okay, ready?
Uh-huh.
As Longstreet's wing burst forward to the north, the Vineyard Field remained quiet, having seen the heaviest fighting on September 19th, as Confederates of John Bell Hood's division tried to seize the Lafayette Road in the late afternoon. Colonel John T. Wilder's brigade, located in the tree line to the west, was armed with the Spencer repeating rifles. These 7-shot rifles inflicted extremely heavy casualties on Hood's division, which was finally repulsed. The field remained a no-man's land, and a scene of horror as dead and wounded of both sides littered the field in a bloody carpet that could be walked on from end to end without ever touching the ground. Sergeant Benjamin F. McGee of the 72nd Indiana Infantry recalled, "Just in our front there are doubtless more killed and wounded than on any other part of the field, for the ground has been desperately contested 4 times." Among the fallen was Colonel Hans Christian Haig of the 15th Wisconsin Infantry Regiment, a command made up of Norwegian and Scandinavian immigrants. A stack of cannonballs marks the location where Colonel Haig was mortally wounded late in the fighting.
Right there.
Haig was one of the 8 brigade commanders killed in the battle. In 3 days of fighting at Chickamauga, over 16,000 United States soldiers and over 18,000 Confederate soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured. Among the dead was Lieutenant Samuel Donaldson, grandson of President Andrew Jackson, Major Sidney Coolidge, a famed astronomer who discovered the rings of Saturn, and Lieutenant Daniel Huger, the great-grandson of the signer of the Declaration of Independence. Strewn throughout the woods alongside them were thousands of young men struck down in the prime of life. Empty chairs at kitchen tables throughout the nation bore testimony to the sheer horror of battle. Continue on to tour stop 6 to learn about how one group of Unions...
Still here at 5. This is Michigan's monument. It's Michigan to her 13th Regiment of Infantry, commanded by Colonel Joshua B. Culver, Major Willard E. Eaton, Bull's Brigade, Wood's Division, Crittenden's Corps. That is a nice monument. It really is. That, well done, Tennessee, Texas. I'm not getting on to you.
You're leaving us hanging.
But, well, Tennessee, or Texas, at least you could find the fortitude to put something up. Tennessee, yeah, all right. Enough said about Tennessee.
No.
Made it tour stop 6.
Early on the morning of September 20th, Colonel John T. Wilder's Brigade of Mounted Infantry, known throughout the Union Army as the Lightning Brigade, was ordered from its position along the western edge of Vineyard Field to a low ridge just west of the battlefield to be held in reserve. As Longstreet's men swept through the gap and collapsed to the Federal right, his southernmost brigade of Alabamians and South Carolinians under the command of General Arthur Manigault came into view to the east of Dyer Field. Wilder reacted quickly and counterattacked the Confederates, his men advancing while firing their 7-shot Spencer repeating rifles as rapidly as possible. General Manigault later wrote, "The fire we got under when first we became engaged in the morning exceeded anything I ever before or after experienced. The air seemed alive with bullets, and an officer afterwards remarked to me, 'General, all you had to do was to hold out your hand and catch them.' Out of about 800 men that came into the full fury of this storm, nearly 300 were shot down in a space of time certainly not exceeding 3 minutes." Manigault's brigade broke under the heavy fire and rapidly retreated back into the woods east of the Lafayette Road to regroup. As Wilder prepared to reform and press his attack north, he was advised to withdraw, and upon learning of the flight of the remainder of the Union right wing, did so. Today, the Wilder Brigade Monument stands near the spot where Colonel Wilder's brigade went into action. The monument stands 85 feet tall and was built on the site of widowed Eliza Glenn's cabin, which served as General Rosecrans's headquarters on September 19. The home was destroyed by fire during the battle, leaving the 23-year-old widow homeless. Continuing along the auto tour route, there are federal monuments to the units of Brigadier General William Lytle's brigade, as well as the Union cavalry regiments that participated in the campaign.
Okay, that is one big monument.
This is one big hill trying to get up to the monument. That's a unique looking monument down there. See it, the wheel?
It is, yeah. Another Michigan monument.
What is it, honey? You don't like it up here?
Not her is one, it's him.
Yeah, don't fall off.
It's okay, baby. Here, you can see my dog.
Lord.
I'll try. I just do the. They want to take it, I don't like dogs doing it.
He's funny
Well,
about
guys.
it.
Respect the animals.
Everyone's leaving the wine indicators.
Respect the animals' boundaries.
This is quite a ways. You remember when we went up that thing at Key West, the lighthouse?
Yeah.
I think this was worse. Well, I'm probably 20 years older too.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Oh, Lord.
what a view though, guys. Sorry about the panting. But the old Hart guy got up here. Going down will be easier. Boy, it's a good view though.
It is.
You know. And guys, I'll get to you when we go back down. I really was worried, but we finally found one. Tennessee. In commemoration of the heroisms of her son, September 19th, 20th, 1863, Tennessee erects this monument, the Calvary. And this is definitely the Union, Tennessee, because it's in the Union lines. So, okay. Say U.S. on the statue. So, at least Tennessee was represented. Okay. 7 was deterred around, and 8 was pretty packed on the top of the hill, so we thought we would just play 8.
Are we going to do 7 too, or no?
Yeah, you can do 7.
As the Union center collapsed, soldiers moved up from the south to stem the tide, leading to a chaotic and confusing fight in the fields and hills near the tan yard where we were going to stand.
To the west is a ridge across the open field. Around 11:30 in the morning of September 20th, Union Brigadier General William Haynes Lytle's brigade marched north from the Widow Glen's house, near the Wilder Brigade monument at tour stop number 6, and began occupying a position on this ridge across from you in an attempt to support crumbling Union troops in their front. Confederate troops from General Zachariah C. Days's brigade burst through the woods to the south, sweeping the Federal troops before them. General Lytle, who had achieved national fame as a poet, was killed while attempting to hold his position on the ridge. The Confederates recognized his remains and returned him to Union forces after the battle. This entire field quickly filled with Confederates as they pushed west and north after their breakthrough at the Brotherton Cabin. Caught in the chaos of this fight here around the Dyer family's farm were a number of African Americans. In the Confederate ranks, enslaved men were often forced to accompany their enslavers into the army to serve as body servants. These men would be tasked with carrying their enslaver's belongings, doing his laundry, and preparing meals. During battle, these enslaved men often found themselves near the front, as they would be used as litter bearers to evacuate the wounded. Most famous of these body servants at Chickamauga was Silas Chandler, who followed the 44th Mississippi Infantry into the fight across this field just to the north of where you are standing. After his enslaver was critically wounded, Silas carried him to the hospital and eventually back home to Mississippi. African Americans could also be found with the Union Army as well. From here you can see a cannonball pyramid monument marking General Rosecrans's headquarters, and next to it, a monument to the 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry. Jack Hines, who had escaped from slavery in Kentucky, found work as a cook with the Company K of the 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry, which served as General Rosecrans's escort during the Battle of Chickamauga. During the Confederate breakthrough, Hines was severely wounded and nearly captured on the ridgeline opposite from your position. On the ridge just to the north of your position, Thomas Coles, who had escaped from Huntsville, Alabama the previous year, worked as a hired servant to a Union officer on General John Mendenhall's artillery line. In the chaos of the breakthrough, Coles found himself helping to crew an artillery piece. In a twist of fate, his former enslaver, Robert Coles, was charging across this very field with the 4th Alabama Infantry. After the battle, this field later became the focal point of military operations on the Chickamauga battlefield. In 1865, this was the campground of a regiment of United States colored troops, who were tasked with sweeping the battlefield to recover remains for reinterment at Chattanooga National Cemetery. Mark Thrash, a formerly enslaved man, worked on the battlefield for years and lived in a small cabin just below General Rosecrance's headquarters site. During the Spanish-American War and World War I, this field was covered with the tents and barracks of soldiers training to fight overseas. During the Spanish-American War, this area was called Camp Thomas, named after Union General George Thomas, who achieved fame for his heroic stand at Snodgrass Hill, the scene of your final tour stop. Continue north along Glen Kelly Road to tour stop 8.
This is not the last stop, but it was so packed up on the hill, I just skipped it. There's a little house up there, it's on top of the knoll, and this is what happened.
This is the cabin of George Washington Snodgrass. At the time of the battle, the farm consisted of a larger cabin and several outbuildings, and the field planted with corn. As disaster struck the Federal right on September 20th, many of the men began fleeing north as individuals or as semi-organized units to this area. At this point, General George H. Thomas, the highest-ranking federal officer still present on the field, assumed command of this patchwork line, but had very little time to prepare before the Confederates launched their first attacks. One of the first attacks was made by the South Carolinians of Brigadier General Joseph Kershaw's Confederate Brigade of Longstreet's Corps. One South Carolinian later wrote that Kershaw had advanced to within 40 paces of the enemy's line, and it seemed for a time that his troops would be annihilated. Men were being mown down like grain before a sickle. 3 times Kershaw attempted to storm these positions, and 3 times he was beaten back. As the afternoon wore on, attack after attack was made against the Federals, but all were beaten back. On the Federal right, the 21st Ohio Infantry beat back repeated Confederate assaults with their Colt revolving rifles, and before the day ended, expended 43,550 rounds of ammunition. As the afternoon wore on, the Confederates began working their way westward, trying to find the Federal flank, forcing Thomas to stretch his force thinner and thinner to meet new threats. Late in the afternoon, as things began appearing bleak, Thomas received reinforcements from General Gordon Granger's Reserve Corps. Granger's men had been stationed in Rossville, Georgia, several miles to the north. As the sounds of the fighting shifted earlier in the day, Granger took it upon himself to march part of his men southward, arriving in the nick of time to save Thomas's line. The Reserve Corps charged up the backside of Snodgrass Hill and into the Confederates who were about to turn Thomas's flank. Fighting raged to near sunset when Thomas received orders from Rosecrans to withdraw from the field. Thomas began by ordering his troops, who had defended Kelly Field throughout the day, to withdraw, and then as darkness settled over the field and the firing slackened, he pulled back from his positions on Snodgrass Hill. As Thomas's men left the field, the Confederates made one final assault, gained the tops of the hills, but found only 3 regiments, the 21st Ohio, the 89th Ohio, and the 22nd Michigan, who had not received their orders to pull back. These 3 units became the final casualties of the battle as they were captured and soon found themselves being shipped to Confederate prison camps in Virginia. With the withdrawal of Thomas from the field, the Battle of Chickamauga came to an end. Thomas's stand saved the Federal Army from complete disaster and earned him the nickname, the Rock of Chickamauga. But the disaster that befell the Army could not be overlooked. In the following weeks, General Rosecrans was relieved of command, and Generals McCook and Crittenden faced court-martials. In the Confederate Army, General Bragg relieved Generals Polk and Hill of their commands due to their poor performances during the battle. The Federal Army retreated back to Chattanooga, placing themselves behind heavy fortifications, waiting for the Confederates' next move. Bragg chose to besiege the city, and for the next 2 months attempted to starve the Federals out. In late November, the Federal troops, then having been heavily reinforced and now under the command of General Ulysses S. Grant, delivered a devastating blow to the Confederates. The battles of Orchard Knob, Lookout Mountain, and Missionary Ridge were won, thus deciding the fate of Chattanooga once and for all in favor of the Federal forces. These victories opened the gateway to the Deep South. General Bragg led the broken Confederate army back to Dalton, Georgia, where he resigned command of the army. Grant was once again promoted, and in turn promoted his old friend and protege, William T. Sherman, to command the Federal armies in the West. The next spring, General Sherman moved his army out of Chattanooga, marching south toward Atlanta.
And that was a tour. Doyle, I hope you like it, because this is a big one. I'm just going to put it up private. And we'll see you for supper.
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.